Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell, and today we are going to answer a letter from somebody who asked for what she needed from a friend, and the friend said no. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioner.
No, we are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this. We're friends, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. All right, so it's Monday. So before we dive into today's letter about friendship, we're going to answer a quick check-in topic actually inspired by a letter. The letter was written by Hinge Hottie, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing to us from Manhattan. And to summarize the letter, basically, they recently ended a long-term relationship and are just getting back into online dating. They went on their first Hinge date, and she, had a good date in the beginning. But like as they were walking to another bar or something like that, the date, who was a he, him man, kissed her, and it was sort of unexpected and uncomfortable. And she sort of, pushed away and sort of made a little joke about it and was like, no, thank you. I'm not really ready for that. And then the dude was like, oh, I didn't know you were shy, and continued to be a little sketchy and overstepping boundaries. And I just overall, if you're watching the video, you can see Sam's face. Sort of like a bad smell is in his office. Anyway, he just sort of kept trying to push the physical contact thing. And finally she had to be like, I'm just gonna go, goodbye. And the question was, it says, I feel like I have a past, the question was, I have a tendency in the past to be a bit of a pushover when it comes to stuff like this, and I want to avoid it in the future. However, I don't want to make a big deal out of a kiss. I want to keep dating, but I don't want to have to deal with this again. How do I communicate, quote, stronger or avoid being in these types of situations? What should I do differently for future dates to make sure that it's a fun experience? Is there anything I can do to vet them more beyond the normal texting leading up to the date and social media search? So TLDR, this person overstepped our letter writer's physical boundaries repeatedly and in a weird, just sort of icky way. Icky is the word. And it just left a really gross taste in her mouth. And she's wondering what I can do differently in the future to prevent this. Is our check-in topic. So, how do we set up physical expectations, boundaries, safety measures, or whatever, however we want to describe this in online dating or early stages of dating? How do you set up what your physical boundaries or desires are? How do you communicate them?
Sure. Yeah. I hate that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. The letter, it made us all feel icky.
No, I just hate that question. And we're sorry
that it happened to this person.
Yes, absolutely. The solution to this problem is for these bros to not be skeezes. You know what I mean? It's for them to ask for consent, or to not do weird, suave things that are
it was
just gross.
Lots of weird property touching for somebody you just met. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's this is such a frustrating thing that I think, and we talk on this podcast a lot about frustrating things that are why is it up to us to figure out how to
responsibility.
Absolutely. And particularly when it comes to cis women dating cis men, right? It's the cis woman needs to figure out how to make sure that the man isn't being inappropriate with her. And it's fuck no. I'm sorry. The man should be figuring out how to not be inappropriate. That's the answer here. So I think I am just in my feelings a little bit because it hurts my heart to know that, people like this letter writer go on dates and they have these bad experiences, and then they're like, okay, well, what do I need to do to protect myself more? And it's like, oh, like is that the solution here? Is that the thing that we should be asking, right? Because, you know, this person who wrote in didn't ask for any of this and didn't deserve any of this and wasn't inviting any of this into her life. It's just that, like, these bros are like entitled predators who think that they have access to women's bodies and get to touch them whenever they want, however they want. And like, that's awful. Like that's the long and short of it. It's just terrible.
I think it's a relic of the patriarchy, not to just, you know, put a big umbrella stamp on it, but it's also a relic of, I think, online dating and the assumption that we're on the same escalator as everyone else, or that there's like a universal sexual norm, or, you know what I mean? It just, I think we forget that our assumed comfort or our assumptions over what's going to happen on this date aren't universal. You know what I mean? And that goes to, the lack of consent culture, that we're not.
Definitely, for sure.
We superimpose our level of comfort over other people. And forget that somebody, you know, especially this person, the letter writer, hadn't been on a first date in years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, when I texted Sam that this was going to be our check-in topic today, they texted back and was like, what, that all men are awful? So that's not the check-in topic today. But just like general caveat that, like, we are feeling frustrated by this letter and disappointed for the letter writer. And also we see that like many things in the world, we can do things to stand firmer in our own boundaries and comfort and wishes, and hope that the world around us respects them, knowing that it's unfortunate that it often falls on us to enforce those boundaries and not on the other person who is crossing them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think my only tangible piece of advice for this is that no, let me say it's two things. Number one, I want to say this is not going to be your experience every time. Even though Sam and I were just like, oh, men are awful, blah, 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 you know, grumble, grumble, grumble. I just want to say this is a really unfortunate first Hinge date. And it's really disappointing. And we see threads of this happening universally all around us because of the culture that we live in. And also, not everybody's going to act like this. So if you want, you could say something, you know, on Hinge in text messages. You can say, hey, so-and-so, I'm really looking forward to our date on whatever day it is. Just to let you know, I am not comfortable with kissing or a lot of touching on our first date, but I am really looking forward to getting to know you. And those things would be on the table if I felt comfortable with you at a future date or something like that. I know it sounds really formal, but it's also like, it's you standing in your power is the way you can think about it. And it's you standing confidently in what you know you want, and you're not being a pushover. You're literally just being forward. You know, you can even say if you feel that like feminine urge to feel guilty, you can say something like, if this isn't in alignment with what you want you want our date to go, or like how you want to get to know me, then maybe we're not right for each other. I've had a great time chatting. If you're interested in getting to know me in a different, you know, I don't know. You can stand firm in it, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think having those expectations up front are normal, right? Because like Sierra said, we can't assume that everyone else is operating under the same sort of like rules for engagement that we are. And I also think that like having some of those expectations and knowing those expectations for yourself are also really helpful, right? So doing some, I don't want to say like contingency planning, but like being reasonably readier for things that might come up, which is to say like, okay, if this person kisses me and I don't want them to, then like, cool, I'm going to leave the date, right? Like that's also how we have to like establish some the boundaries for ourselves is like, what's going to happen if this happens again, right? Like and you did, like, here's the thing, is that the letter writer did like everything right. And I think that that's true of lots of the weird dates that we've been on, right? Like I can like name so many places where I just was like, oh, you're just like coming at me and like just a weird vibe. And so I think the other thing is to like not internalize other people's stuff as being like something that we have like invited or given permission for, right? Like, you know, like if somebody's weird to you on a date and then you're like, that was gross.
I wish I ended those dates instead of like went on to date them for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
I just wish I was like, this is odd. This is an odd choice. Do you remember the drunk guy who ate my fries and then lied to me that he didn't eat my fries? Like I should have just been like,
second date, here we go.
This is not my vibe.
But I think that's part of it too, is that like I think a lot of us internalize this type of stuff and say like, oh, I invited this man's skeezy behavior. I should have known. If I were a stronger person, they wouldn't have taken advantage of me in this way, or I should have said no immediately after and not like continued the date with them. And like I'm on board with like, yeah, let's talk about how we can support each other in being clearer with ourselves and others about what our boundaries are. And also, like, I don't like the victim blamey mentality that comes with that. And I think that there's a fine line between those two things, right? Because I don't want to be like, yeah, if you have a weird experience on a date, then like you need to be more upfront. You need to not let people take advantage of you, blah, blah, blah. This sort of like, I don't know, like 1990s feminism or something that comes out where it's like, yeah, you just need to be a tough broad who doesn't take shit from anyone, as opposed to being like, no, you didn't deserve this in the first place, right? And you not knowing how to react in that instance is like understandable, because like there's so much that's complicated about that. And also being open and vulnerable and kind is a superpower, right? Like the goal is not to be like completely closed off to people. It's about like taking risks with being open and seeing how people respond to that openness. And what that means is that sometimes folks are going to be skeezes and you're going to have to be like, fuck that guy, right? Like, I don't want to be with somebody who upsets those or oversteps those boundaries. And sometimes it's going to mean like, oh, there's a lot of good stuff that's happening here, right? Like my vulnerability and openness and saying, oh, actually, I don't want to kiss you right now. And having them be like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. I'm so sorry. Like you let me know when you're ready. You know, like there's different places where that openness and vulnerability can happen. And I just don't want people to feel like, oh, I have to control every aspect in order to not be put in that situation ever again. Cause like that situation is actually not your fault and you didn't invite it. It's everything to do with the person who is willfully or unintentionally misunderstanding.
Yeah, unintentionally.
Or overstepping, yep. Right? Like, you know, like it's just like complicated, you know, and I don't want to be here telling women to like be firmer with your boundaries. Cause like, yes, sure. But also it's not your fault.
Yeah.
you didn't ask for this.
It's everything that we've said, because all of it is true at the same time, unfortunately.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And just
you're sick of it.
Ask for consent, friends.
I know.
It's not that hard.
Honestly, I didn't even get into all the details of the letter. It was just icky. It was just like, all right, man, take a hint. Like, sit down.
Take a hint, bro. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Anyway, maybe the check-in topic should have been like how to take a hint.
As a person who has a lot of like external awareness, when stuff like this happens, I'm like, how did you think that was the right thing to do? Why weren't you just immediately apologizing and like excusing yourself from the situation? Like, I don't
know. I would have been like, I gotta go. My house is flooded. Like, I gotta go.
Oh, you don't want to kiss me? How mortifying for me. I can't believe that I did that.
I would be so mortified that I didn't ask for consent and then it went, you know what I mean? Like, it would be shame, not like, it was not shame from rejection, shame from my ineptitude, inhumanity. Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway, good Monday morning conversation for you.
Yeah, for sure.
You ready to dive into today's letter?
Let's do it. All right, so this letter comes from Empty Cup, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing from Burnoutsville. She writes, I have a close friend who I care for very much and have been through a lot with. We both live with disabilities and have also supported each other through hard emotional turmoil with our families and partners. I value this friendship a lot and very much want to keep it. I also have a history of codependency and becoming very close with people who I give too much to and end up burning out. This friend has been going through a lot of bodily changes due to their illness through the years and recently has started having mental breakdowns as a result of their illness. In the past, supporting them through physical challenges has felt doable by offering them validation and compassion. This new phase of the friendship has been much more challenging. I get texts in the middle of my day telling me they're having a mental breakdown, or messages from their partners stating the same and asking that I reach out. I have been there when I can, but I am seeing no end to this phase. I just lost my job and am needing more calm and stability in my life. I let my friend know that I don't currently have capacity to be there in the ways that I have been in the past, and that I'm needing more light, easy, and fun interactions to balance the hard times and emotional support. I asked them for less time spent together dwelling on hardship and pain, just for the time being. They responded saying that they couldn't meet my needs and needed to go no contact for a while. I'm having a hard time with this. Of course you are. I'm so sorry that happened to you. While I respect them being direct with me and setting boundaries, I am also feeling a little overwhelmed. As a recovering codependent / caretaker, my worst fear is that I will be abandoned if I say no to helping people. And it feels kind of like that is what is happening when I finally said no to my bestie. When we open up the channel to talk again, how can I continue to hold my boundaries in a way that is kind and won't make this person feel like they're too much to be around? How can I feel less guilty about needing these boundaries for myself and not feel tempted to go back to my old ways of pouring from an empty cup? I tend to be the go-to person for my friends when they're having a hard time, but there are times when I'm getting multiple calls for help in a week from different people. And I'm like, how did I get here? I'm not qualified for this. Thank you for all that you do. I'm looking forward to hearing your advice.
Oh, my darling. Thank you so much for writing and listening and trusting us with this tender letter. I think that you are in the right place. I just want to say that. I'm really proud of you for expressing where you were at to your friend, even though it resulted in something that was painful for you. I'm still really proud of you. I still think you did the right thing. And I also think that you're in the right place in the sense of reflecting on cycles in your friendships and how your friends view you in terms of this immovable support system that doesn't need to be cared for. You know what I mean? And it's just sort of reflecting on like, how did we develop this dynamic in which I am the giver and other people are the takers? Because as you are very well noticing, you'll burn out. You won't have a safe, quiet, peaceful place to rest and recharge, not just within yourself, but like you deserve other people. You deserve the support of your friends and your loved ones. We all people need other people, period, right? And no matter how strong and capable you are of supporting other people, you still deserve to be supported in return. We're going to talk about things that we see in your letters, in your letter, and things that we have learned in our lives. And we're going to grieve with you a little over the end of this friendship. First, we're going to take a very quick break.
All right, everyone, welcome back, and especially welcome back to Empty Cup. Everything that's here said before the break is absolutely true, that this is just such a challenging situation for you to be in. And the reality is that you telling your friend that you needed more lightness, that you needed more fun, was you breaking a pattern in the relationship. And breaking patterns is so difficult, right? Because it's so easy for us to go into the things that we know the best, which is, it sounds like for you, just kind of calmly and quietly providing stability and support to your friends who are in crisis. And I want to name for you in this moment that is a superpower. Like, that is so amazing that so many people look to you and say, wow, this person is so good at providing support and kindness and comfort in times of need, right? Like, I want to make sure that as we're talking about how you continue to establish boundaries and ask for what you need, that you don't like somehow look at that piece of yourself and say, oh, that's a terrible part of me and I should never be doing it, right? Like, the fact that you can do that is amazing. And I hope that you continue to be able to do that with people around you, because it sounds like that is how you show them love. And I think that that's really important. And totally recognize that in this moment you're saying, but I can't do that all the time, right? I need something different besides just this. I need my cup to be filled a little bit as well. And you, by telling your friend this, you are breaking a pattern of behavior. And what happens when we try and break patterns of behavior with folks who are reliant on us for a particular thing is that it often doesn't go well. Like, I don't want you to think like you somehow did this wrong or that you have like caused more problems than you should. Like, I think many people, me included, can tell you stories of talking to that friend who may be codependent, having that conversation with the parent or sibling who might have a particular way of being in relationship with you that they expect from you. And what often happens is that when we say, actually, I'm going to take a step back from the role that I normally play in this relationship, and I'm going to be honest with you that I need you to also change some of your behavior to help meet me in this, is that folks feel like something's being taken away from them. They're being asked of things that they shouldn't be asked of, that you're being difficult because you're not doing the thing that you did over and over for them, right? And so the fact that your friend is having maybe a challenging response to you saying, I need to disrupt this pattern, is not an indication that you did the wrong thing. It's an indication that they are set in this pattern as well. And that they're going to need to also start to change their behavior and recognize some of the unhealthiness of this relationship in order to be able to meet you where you need to be met. But you establishing this boundary is actually beneficial for you. And if your friend is able to meet you, it will be beneficial for your relationship with them too, because it will disrupt this pattern that isn't working for either of you. And that is a good thing, even though she's responding in a really difficult way to it.
Sam was phenomenal in the last 5 minutes. Everything you said was super on point. I'll just add that this is beneficial for you and your long-term stability. And honestly, it quite possibly, most likely, can be very beneficial for your friend. Because like Sam said, this is disrupting a pattern, a pattern of codependency or of, we all have those friends. And we also have been that friend that is sort of stuck in a temporary soothing method that isn't actually pushing us to growth. You know what I mean? And your friend isn't doing, I'm not villainizing this friend at all. We all, like I just said, we all need other people. We all reach out when we're suffering. And also, the older I get, the more I really realize that our friends and loved ones and community are meant to support us and comfort us. But growth and change is up to us. And like 5% up to the professionals that we seek services from, meaning like you're not equipped to be this person. And here, like, let's break it down. Like, the reason why we say you can't be everything to a friend or a loved one or a partner, and why we tell people to seek out the professional services of, mental health professionals and behavioral health specialists, is because they not only have this educated career, this tenure or whatever, but they have distance so that the labor the emotional labor of being there for someone doesn't wear on us in the same way as like a best friend texting you every day that they're breaking down. Like that is secondary trauma. And
Right.
I don't fault your friend for going through a traumatic, difficult time. And also, none of us is capable of carrying trauma repeatedly forever for other people. You know what I mean? It's just not, this is not sustainable. Mental health, professionals struggle with burnout as well, but they're not interpersonal relationships on
Right.
the same level,
Absolutely.
This is all to say, you breaking this pattern has launched you into this new, uncomfortable, great space of growth. And it
Right.
may have launched your friend as well, too. Breaking those patterns of codependency or breaking those patterns of soothing, but not actually seeking change or solution or whatever. Again, I'm not victim blaming your friend at all. I have no idea what is on their plate right now. And
Nope.
and also I know that we cannot be everything for other people. So hopefully your friend is taking this as a means to diversify their support system a little bit more. And to look at how they're getting support and what they're doing with this support. You know what I mean?
For sure. Absolutely. And you ask in your letter about like, if we get back in contact with each other, what do I do to maintain these boundaries and how do I feel less guilty? And I want to say like, what you did with this friend is exactly what you can and should continue to do with them, which is to make some of your needs known and to recognize the fact that, yeah, they're going to have needs that you're going to have to meet as well. And to feel less guilty about it. Like, I don't know that I can make you feel less guilty, right? I don't know that I have
Right.
like
That's your humanness, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's like an understandable emotion to feel guilty about not being able to make your friend feel better all the time. Right. Like it's so hard to watch friends and loved ones who are experiencing pain or heartbreak or whatever it is that this friend is experiencing. Like that's just really difficult. And so I don't want you to feel like you need to not feel guilty about this. Right. But I do want you to think about, what do you do for yourself when that guilt comes up, right? When that understandable emotion of, oh, I should be doing more. I can't believe that I'm letting my friend down like this. What are the things that you're going to do to remind yourself of the fact that A, you can't be everything for everyone. B, you establishing boundaries and talking about what your needs are in a relationship actually makes that relationship healthier. And 3, if your friend responds poorly to your needs for more levity, for more fun, for more light conversation, then that's not actually about your needs. It's about your friend and her ability or inability to be able to meet those needs, right? Like you're not driving her away. You're just discovering that she's maybe not equipped to be able to meet you in a healthy and sustainable relationship, which is so sad. Like that is just so like the grief that you're experiencing of recognizing that your friend couldn't meet your needs in that moment is like so deep and profound, but it doesn't mean that you're somehow too much or that your boundaries aren't helpful. And I want you to think about places where you can find relationships, maybe with friends who are more equipped to be able to support you in this moment so that you can get your cup filled, right? And it's also okay if your relationship with this particular friend continues to be that you are just a support system for her, as long as you are also getting the support that you need from the places that you need it, right? Like sometimes our relationships are more one-sided than others, and like that's okay as long as A, we're consenting to it and we know what's happening, and B, you're not doing that in every one of your relationships so that everyone else gets their needs met and you get none of yours.
Right. And this is life work, right? Like this is, you're going to
100%.
be thinking about these relationship dynamics forever. And it's okay. Like Sam said, this is your superpower. It's okay if you give more than you get, but I want you to be cueing into what your body feels like, how those relationships are being established, how you're how you're being treated as well, and go and grow from there. Thank you so much for writing, my darling, and we hope this helps.
Absolutely. We love you.
We love ya.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to those office hours. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his music and his podcasts. And remember, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to be able to be sustained from the relationships that you give to. It's not always going to be even. It's not always going to be easy, but it's okay to need more from the people around you. And if all else fails,
just break up.